Now, what is a mojo? Where on earth do these things come from? Well, you know the song Eleanor Rigby? All those lonely people. Where do they all come from? Over the years that I've dedicated into researching the spirit world, I've realized that many people die lonely, and they die lonely mainly because they've built barriers, built walls between themselves and other people through bigotry, arrogance. They've lived out of their lower self. Now, what's the difference between the lower self and the higher self? Well, the higher self would be a person who tries always to think of the effect that they're having on other people, and try and be compassionate and polite, and to try and be good as much as possible, and to try and live in harmony with nature, and always to be mindful of causing any kind of tension or stress with other people, trying to avoid that. And that would be somebody who's trying to live out their higher self. Unfortunately, millions, if not billions of people die, and they've lived their lives in their lower self. They have not bothered to read, they've not bothered to research anything about the death experience, even though they must have known that death was inevitable. And these people have died lonely, and they have not fulfilled the dreams that they might have had when they were children. And therefore, their spirit finds it extremely difficult to separate from their physical body, but nonetheless they do separate. And because they really shielded themselves from any kind of spiritual thought, they just allowed themselves to be force-fed by television, and television doesn't have really any serious spiritual information on it whatsoever. The spirits of these people hang around because they think, well, the game is not yet over. You know, the spirit is free of the physical body, which in most cases would have been in pretty bad health. And so they discover this new form of freedom as a spirit. However, they realize that they're imprisoned in some way because they have no idea of how to move on, go to a higher spiritual plane. And so what they do is they take up residence in places which don't have too much movement of people. They prefer dusty, unclean rooms, and like this man said, they take up residence on door frames. And this is a very common thing, and you'll find that there are millions, if not billions, of lost mojo spirits, whatever you want to call them, in every city around the world. The Freemasons and the Templars, who designed and built the great medieval cathedrals, and also all of the architects and designers of all of the churches, must have been fully aware that mojos liked to take up residence on the flat part of a door frame, because nearly every single church and cathedral in the world has windows and doors which are shaped like that. And the reason that they're shaped like that is so that the mojo just sort of slides off and cannot actually get a grip on a doorway which is shaped like that. Now, in some cultures, these mojo spirits are called sliverers or slithering. Now, where have we heard slithering before? Well, we see it in Harry Potter. The SBR's membership included many leading scientists of the day, who spent fortunes studying people who had psychic abilities. These psychic people claimed they could bridge the gap between the living physical world and the spirit world, and as such were called mediums. Mediums sometimes allowed their bodies to be entirely possessed, albeit temporarily, by spirits who would then speak through the medium. On rare occasions, physical manifestations of an eerie white substance called ectoplasm was seen emerging from the body of the medium and forming the shape of hands, faces, and, in particularly rare cases, the entire body of a deceased person's spirit. During the 1860s, scientific investigation of these so-called mediums involved the eminent scientist Sir William Crookes, the man who had seen the faces of spirits appear in the dark mirror during rituals at the Golden Dawn, and who had first demonstrated publicly that images could be created electronically using the cathode ray tube. In France, a huge modern spiritualist movement began in the 19th century with the birth of Léon Denisard Réveil, who was born in Lyon in 1804. Réveil was at first skeptical of the reports of French explorers who had witnessed shamans in Siberia and Canada drumming up the spirits of their ancestors. In 1855, a friend invited Réveil to a séance where spirits made themselves manifest in front of the sitters. The table also levitated and turned. Réveil underwent an evangelical conversion to spiritualism. Réveil was instructed by the spirits to change his name. He became known as Allan Kardec. His experiences and conversations were written down in a book called The Book of Spirits. Allan Kardec claimed that there were two independent worlds, one visible and the other invisible. Kardec said that the spiritual life force is formed of quintessential matter which is united to the physical body by a so-called astral body. Kardec taught reincarnation as a matter of fact. He told all his followers that there is no death. In fact, according to Allan Kardec, there are no dead people. Everyone who has died discovers the reality of the spirit world. Allan Kardec also taught the law of karma as a matter of fact. That is, if you lead your life doing bad things, being lazy or self-centered, or leading an indulgent, non-spiritual life, then your spirit will suffer the consequences after the death of your physical body. Allan Kardec also taught that just before the time of the death of the physical body, each person is replayed a movie of all the things that they have seen and done in their previous life.